KC Joyner, ESPN.com, senior NFL insider here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. You know, I think we were talking earlier with Harry Mays, who hosts our Countdown to Kickoff show with Eitan Shander. They'll be on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And, you know, ever since those guys kind of took over hosting the show for Joe, who's been out on vacation and stuff, the Eagles have started winning. So we just decided, let's just keep those guys hosting the show, right? I mean, they were subbing for Joe, who was on vacation. So we said, hey, the Eagles keep winning. Joe, you're out. Harry and Eitan, you're in. Joe was like, all right, those guys can keep hosting the show. So they'll host the show because the Eagles keep winning. The last time I talked to KC Joyner, it sounded like the Eagles were a mess. What has happened the last 3 weeks, Casey, that the Eagles are all of a sudden playing in a playoff game?
A lot of things have happened. There's a lot of areas where they're playing a whole lot better. They're an entirely different football team that Foles in the center.
Why? I mean, they're an entirely different football team with Foles under center. Why? How come? What is it?
How about from weeks 14 through 17, if you're counting a production on vertical passes, yards per attempt on vertical passes, that passes thrown 11 or more yards downfield, the Eagles lead the league in that category. Higher yards per attempt total than anybody else in the league, 16.4 yards per attempt. It's a tremendously good number. It's better than the Texans, the Colts, Cowboys, and the next three teams on the list. I mean, you can start hitting vertical passes. It was something they had trouble with all earlier in the season. Almost every game earlier in the season, they had problems with it. And now they're the best in the league, and that can change. That's just a dynamic that changes every other aspect of your game.
You know, Foles has definitely changed. I think he's spreads the ball around a little bit more. Wentz did that a lot last year, though. I mean, people act like, you know, this is something that Wentz never did. I mean, he was doing this last year. He wasn't doing it as much this year, though, right?
No, it wasn't doing it as much this year, and I think that there's a number of – I think the pass pressure rate is part of the reason that Foles has been doing quite as well as he is. If you look at pass pressure rate for the last 4 weeks of the season, that same area I just mentioned, the Eagles overall, including this is pass pressure rate on both vertical passes and on short passes, allowing pass pressure rate 16.6% of the time, the best rate in the league. So some of that is it's throwing short passes, but if you're doing as well on vertical passes as you are, they're also giving good vertical pass protection. And he's also only been contacted. He's being hit by the defense on 5.7% of his dropbacks. That's the second best rate in the league. So fantastic blocking leads to big plays in the passing game. All
right, KC Joyner breaking down this matchup with us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. All right, let's start with Foles. You talked about they're spreading the ball around. Alshon, Aguilar, Tate, Ertz, Sproles out of the backfield. This is the best defense in the league. Can you challenge the Bears in the pass game?
You can challenge the Bears in the pass game. The thing is, mentioned the vertical passing numbers for the past 4 weeks. You're looking at 10 or more targets in that time frame going to Alshon Jeffrey has 13, Zach Ertz has 10, Nelson Aguilar has 10. And they're all posting pretty good numbers out of those targets. And even Aguilar is catching 4 out of 10 passes. If you can get 40% of your vertical passes, that's fantastic. Alshon, by the way, 10 out of 13 is his completion rate. He's got a catch rate of 76.9% of vertical passes for the past 5 weeks. So just some tremendous figures. Can you challenge the Bears on defense, though? You can. It's going to be tough because over that same time frame, the Bears are allowing 5.6 yards per attempt on vertical passes, second best total in the league. So I think it's going to be a matter of maybe they take Jeffrey out, maybe they take Ertz out, and now you need Aguilar to step up to be that third guy that he's been on your team of vertical passes because there are enough targets out there that you should be able to do it, but you're going to have to respond to what the Bears do in defense because they're good at taking people away.
In terms of, you know, throwing the ball down the field, the 50-50 ball, all that kind of stuff, the pass rush of Chicago. We know about Mac, but how good are they in general?
How good are they in general? They're not – thing is, you're talking over the past 5 weeks again, their pass pressure rate it depends on how you want to frame it because their pass pressure rate, 34.5% of the past 4 weeks, ranked sixth best in the league. So that's a fantastic number. But if you look at how often they get quarterback contact, how often they're hitting the quarterback, that includes sacks, that includes just making some sort of contact on the play. Those are the more impactful plays if we start looking at getting the deeper dive into the metrics. The Bears ranked 29th in that category of the past 4 weeks. So they're not doing quite as well getting after the passer. And now that they're allowing 2.3 seconds on average in time in pocket, that ranks 21st. And they're allowing 2.9 seconds time before pass. In other words, if the quarterback gets out of the pocket, starts to throw, that ranks 28th. So, yeah, they're getting pass pressure, but you can get time to throw against them, and they're not going to hit your quarterback. So from those areas, I like the Eagles' chances given a well-their pass pocket.
Yeah, and we know that the Bears do have that 3-4 look. Mac, the outside backer. They do have, some big names on that defense, but Mac's the big guy. How do you like the Eagles' offensive line, the way they've been playing? A lot of talk here about Lane Johnson last year had a, fairly dominant effort against Khalil Mack when the Eagles played the Raiders. So how about the offensive line against this Bears front?
A little worried about the Eagles' ability to run the football because over the past 4 weeks, they're averaging 2 yards per carry before the first defensive contact. That's an important metric because once the defender makes contact with a ball carrier, generally the play is not going to gain many more yards. They're getting 2 yards beforehand. That ranks 26th in the league. So I think it's a matter of why the Eagles need to throw the ball some on short passes as well, because I was mentioning that their time in pocket and such for the Bears. The Eagles over the past 4 weeks, 2.1 seconds on average time in pocket before the pass, and that ranks 30th. It means it's a lot of dink and dunk throws, a lot of short passes. I think they're going to want to do the same thing here. But a lot of short passes, don't try to run against the Bears defense that has been playing pretty well against the run, and when you're not run blocking quite as well as you have earlier in the year, do what you need to there, get scrolls and some draw plays, things of that nature. Attack certain schematics when they give you a look they can let you run, but otherwise be attacking them through the air, throw some dink and dunk passes, and do that sort of thing, because I think attacking the Bears secondary is where the Eagles would have a chance to win this game.
Now, you mentioned the Eagles might have a trouble running the ball against this team here. What about throwing the ball to Sproles out of the backfield?
Do like that a lot. I'd like to see them do a lot of creative things, not just run screen passes. I'd love to see them, because you've got Ertz, and the Bears know we've got to stop Ertz. I would love to see them use a few plays where what I call an angle screen, what the league will call, some people call it a Texas combination. It's where the tight end runs straight down the field and he clears out the defense, and then you get the running back runs a little angle route where he angles across outside the tackle and comes back down the middle of the field. Sproles does that exceptionally well. I'd like to see them do it a few times. I know the Bears are going to be looking for it, but I'd like to find opportunities to hit that sort of play, because the reason they call it the Texas concept is if you hit it and you play it right, you're going to have a much room to run as the state of Texas. So I'd like to see Sproles be able to hit on some of those plays, because I think that's what they need to do, not just use some of the basic screen passes, but do some concept plays like that.
So if the Eagles win the game, which offensive player at the end of the day do you say they won and this guy had a big game?
I would think I think it's going to have to be Jeffrey's going to be the guy that's going to. I think if there's an under-the-radar player, I think it's Aguilar. Again, they've been throwing a lot of vertical passes to him. I don't like the Bears' coverage against slot receivers as much as I do the coverage on the outside, and I think that's a place where they can get a significant advantage. So either two. I think Jeffrey's going to have to make some big plays, but I think you're going to have either Aguilar or Ertz are going to have to make some big plays, with Aguilar probably being tops on that list.
All right, KC Joyner here looking at that. Let's flip it over. Mitchell Trubisky, your thoughts on him?
Trubisky, I don't care. He's not quite as good, because if you're looking at the past 5 weeks of the season, Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears offense, they rank very badly in vertical yards per attempt. They're not. They're ranked near the bottom of the league. They are, looking at the metric right here, they're 27th in vertical yards per attempt over the past 4 weeks of the season, 8.3 yards per attempt. It's just not something that they're any good at. They can't throw on those sorts of passes. Their ground game hasn't been quite as good of late, and that's part of it too, is that teams are not having to concern themselves with the ground game as much. But I don't think Trubisky's going to have vertical passes, and I think that he's a limited quarterback.
All right. I think a lot of people agree with you on that one. To me, their offense is pretty limited, but Cohen's a problem. Well, how do the Eagles match up with him? I mean, do you do Malcolm Jenkins? Is he a linebacker kind of guy? I mean, what do you do to try to take him out of the game?
I'm worried most about him because I've got a metric called good blocking yards per attempt. The measures how productive a running back is when you give him good quality run blocking. And Jordan Howard's done abysmally in that metric this year. He's been great in past years, but he's been atrocious in this season. So, I'm not worried about him breaking off big gains. Cohen has been near the double digits in that category, and double digits is really important. It's a really good showing in that category. So I would be very concerned about slowing him down. I would put a top athletic linebacker on him. Wouldn't mind putting Jenkins on him and say he's a good guy we need to take care of, because their receivers, as mentioned, they're not very good on vertical passes. So I'd rather have a safety trying to take Cohen out of plays and put a safety in the box or follow him in coverage, do something of that nature, because he's their big play guy almost more than the wide receivers.
Jordan Howard, he's kind of a plotter, 230. I mean, they give him to about 20 times a game. Philly's been okay. We thought earlier in the year that they were really good against the run. That hasn't turned out to be. They've been better the last couple of weeks. But what do you think about the Eagles' run defense against Jordan Howard?
They have been better. Earlier in the year, we've talked many times in past years about how the Eagles' defense does in good blocking yards per attempt, which means when the other team is getting good blocking, how quickly you're able to shed your blocks and slow them down. If you allow double digits in that category, you're doing badly. The Eagles have allowed double digits in that category a few times earlier this year. They haven't done that of late. The Bears also, though, they're only averaging 2.5 yards per carry before first defensive contact. That ranks 15th in the league. It's not that good of a number, and it says that the Bears are. It speaks to how Howard is struggling in the running game. So I'm not as worried about him. If they want to get the ball 20 times on the Eagles, I don't mind that.
What about in the passing game? I mean, the Eagles secondary has been banged up. We know it's been a mess, but it seems like it's settled a bit here. There's not a lot of weapons in this Bears secondary. How does the Eagles secondary match up here?
The Bears secondary, the Bears are not doing very well. As mentioned, they've got terrible numbers in vertical yards per attempt of the past 4 weeks. That's not been something they've been very good at this whole season. Their blocking has been fairly good. It's not like they don't give Trubisky time. They're only allowing 27.3% pass pressure rate. That's a very low number. And they're allowing 2.2 seconds before the pass. So.
Oh, we just lost KC Joyner there. It sounded like something was going awry, and all of a sudden he just vanished. We'll get him back here on the show, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I think, he talked about Trubisky. We'll go back to that because we had some people texted in, or a Bears fan texted in earlier talking about, hey, this guy. I think a lot of people have questioned that he is a big question mark for them. Let's go back to KC Joyner here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, set you back up, and he was talking about that Bears, lack of weapons in the passing game. We will bring him back here in just a second. Josh has got him back online, and we'll get into that. We'll get into his picks. We'll also take a look at the other games with you here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Let's bring KC Joyner back in here. So you were talking about that Bears, pass offense against this Eagles secondary.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got some bad weather here, and I think I got cut off from it. The Bears have not been a big play team. They don't have the receivers to be a big play team. There's not anybody who if I'm the Eagles, I'm thinking back to when they played the Rams a few weeks ago and they sat back in that shell coverage and said, look, we can stop that offense. If they need to, the Eagles don't. And they've got, obviously, they've injuries in the secondary. They're playing a lot of backup players and things. But if they have to, they can go back to that shell coverage. The Bears are not running the kind of offense that they're going to do that. If I'm the Eagles, if the Bears want to throw the football line, fine, go for it, because that's not your strong suit. If you guys want to throw the ball 30 times, if you want to go ahead and try and attack our secondary, if I'm the Eagles, again, sit back in the shell coverages and let them do that. Because if I'm the Eagles, I want this to turn into a kind of a shootout game. I want this to be a 27-24 game. So I like their chances if they take that route.
But the Eagles don't want to blitz a lot, right? I mean, Trubisky's kind of a one-read guy. You want to give him some confusing looks.
You want to give him you don't want to blitz him. There's no reason to blitz him because the Eagles, because he's not the type of quarterback that you need to do that to. And again, I'm not worried about their big play, but I'm more worried about, if I'm them, I'm more worried about him running the football because he's a very mobile quarterback going back to his college days. If I'm the Eagles, I want to sit back and play some zone coverages and make sure you're always looking at him and make sure that if he does try and run the football, he's not going to hit a big play for you there. Again, their receivers, you can go, if I'm looking at vertical yards per attempt, I was talking about the vertical production over the past few weeks. If you're looking at their vertical production over the past 5 weeks of the season, this is literally true. Their best receiver who leads the team in receiving yards over the past 5 weeks is Tariq Cohen. He has more vertical passing yards than anybody else. He's at 101 yards, which is terrible for a 5-game stretch. Allen Robinson, over the past he played 4 of the last 5 games of the season. He has 3 vertical receptions for 85 yards. Taylor Gabriel has 2 for 54. Trey Burton has 2 for 30. They have no vertical production in this offense whatsoever. If I'm the Eagles, it's not that you've got backup players. You need to be worried some about getting loud big plays and such. But generally speaking, I'm looking at this vertical passing attack going, there's nothing I need to worry about here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that make you feel good if you're an Eagles fan, right? I mean, I don't know if you thought this was a good matchup or a bad matchup, but talking to people all week long, we had Jeff Dickerson on earlier, listening to your stuff, our Eagles guys. I feel like the Eagles kind of ass backwards themselves into a playoff game and then into a good situation. I think the Bears are a very good team. They feel like a lot like that Rams team last year that arrived a little early, KC. They were a surprise this year, got to the playoffs, got the home game, and then laid an egg that the moment was just a little too big for them.
I think it's a very good comparison, and I also think that the Bears, we always talk about in our segments here about how formula teams, if you don't have Plan A doesn't work, then you have to go to Plan B, and how good are you switching to Plan B? I'm looking at the Eagles going, okay, I can see Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. I see a lot of different ways they can win, where early in the year they weren't that way. I see the Bears, and it's, wow, your running game, Howard's not really that productive. You've got Cohen, who's your best vertical receiver, which is terrible. Your pass rush is good, but you guys don't get much pressure on the quarterback. I mean, if you'd asked me earlier this week who do I think is going to win this game, I say, the Bears hands down. They just did that much better team. As I'm starting to do all this research and getting deep diving into the numbers, I'm going, I'm seeing I like the Eagles in a lot of ways that I didn't like them earlier in the week, and I like the Bears a whole lot less to make a run. Even if they win this game, I like them a whole lot less to make a run because they're a very limited ball club.
All right, let's look at the rest of them. So you're picking in that game?
I would have earlier this week. I would have picked the Bears. I am picking the Eagles. I will take the upset in this one. I will pick the Eagles to win on the road.
All right, KC Joyner likes Philadelphia on the road against Chicago. Let's take a look at the other matchups here. On the Sports Bash, KC Joyner, ESPN.com, senior NFL insider. Houston is at Indianapolis. These teams have played twice. They've been some fun games. The Colts got in on the final day. The long winning streak for Houston. But are they limping into the playoffs?
They are. Over the past 5 weeks of the season, Houston, according to pass blocking metrics, has the worst pass blocking in the league. Indianapolis has really good pass rush. They're one of the top 5 teams in the league in pass rushing. I think their front seven is fantastic. Darius Leonard should be Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was an first-team All-Pro pick today. He's not the only good linebacker they have. They've got a number of players in both levels for that team, and I just think they're going to make some impact plays. And they've got better players on offense, too. I mean, I know that there's DeAndre Hopkins and things, but I think the Colts all the way around have more talent on offense as well. So I like the Colts in that one.
Let's go to Seattle and Dallas. Seattle, not the same team on the road. Dallas, these two teams played earlier. Seattle won the game. Dallas, no Zeke last week. Kind of put the game in Dak's hands. Can the Cowboys finally get a playoff victory?
We did an ESPN Plus article this week about where we had 11 writers project the playoffs. We all voted who we thought was going to win the game, and then we got to do individual write-ups. As a group, we thought that the Cowboys would make it past this round and play the Saints in the second round, and I got to do that write-up, and I was shocked at how bad the Cowboys' pass rushing metrics have been over the past 5 weeks. They've been just absolutely atrocious. The Cowboys do 29th in pass pressure rate. They're ranked 23rd in quarterback contact rate. They're 28th in sack rate. They're 20th in time in pocket. They have no pass rush whatsoever. I don't think that will necessarily stop them in this matchup because Seattle is not going to be a team that you're going to need to pass rush against. I think the Cowboys will probably win this one there, but I think it's going to be one and done for them.
Baltimore beat the Chargers in L.A. on a Saturday night a couple of weeks ago. Now the game flips to Baltimore, and this Baltimore team, I mean, they just don't jump off the page, but they've been one of the hottest teams in football over the last 7 weeks.
They're still a formula team. If you take Lamar Jackson's rushing numbers, how often he's been rushing over the course of the second half of the season, if you project it over the course of the entire season, I think you'd rank second in the league in running attempts. That's very good, and it can be a tough thing. But here's the thing. When you play a team like that, a lot of times you see it in college football too. It seems some team goes out and plays an option team, and the first time they play an option team, they're not sure what to do with it, not sure how to practice it, and they don't really play quite as well as they would talent-wise. Second time they see that team, now all the tricks that team showed them, they know how to prepare for them in a different way they did the first time around. I think that's the way this is going to go. The Chargers have many more playmakers than the Ravens, and I think they could play a variety of different types of game plans. So they have plan A, plan B, or plan C. So I think the Ravens got the better first time run. I think the Chargers, even though they're going to the East Coast, I think they're still going to win that game.
KC Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL senior insider. He's going to be back on Monday to recap all the games for us right here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. A lot of fun. Eagles playoffs. Couldn't believe it, right? Now we got them. Here we go. You like Philly to win.
Amazing.
All right, man.
Amazing.
Appreciate the time as always, pal. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.